Welcome everyone to this week's Mastering the Markets with me, Matt. If you have not met me before, I'm a senior analyst at PrimeXBT and I will be your host for today's session. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to be taking you through New York trading session, showing you a couple of things on the economic side of things and deep diving a bit more into the technical analysis side of things. So I'm super excited to be here today. So let's jump right into it. So if you guys did not already see, we just actually had ADP's non-farm employment rate change come out about 30 minutes ago. And the actual results came in at around 143,000 versus what was expected at 120,000. So I'm going to be quite interested to see how non-farm payroll actually plays out on Friday afternoon. Now, expectations are that we actually come out a little bit better than expected. However, I'm not too sure now based on this result that we had today. We could come out either in line or a little bit low. And now we know that the market is a bit on edge at the moment, especially with regards to the labor market side of things. So it's going to be quite a key data point to watch out for. It will definitely give us a bit of clarification as to how the Fed might adjust policy going forward. And I think that's quite key. They've said already that they want to kind of protect the labor market. So we're going to have to see how these data results come out, especially considering we had the interest rate cut decision happen last week. So I'm quite keen to see how non-farm payroll plays out, and we can then obviously deep dive into the technicals around that going forward. So if you guys have not already signed up, you can go into our PrimeXBT platform to pretty much gather market research. You get access to all of our tools as well as our CFDs and crypto futures trading platform. If you have not already seen, we do post a lot of market research under the market research section. I'm quite responsible here for posting the technical analysis side of things. And that's pretty much where I am doing all my forecasting based on various assets that I think are interesting. We also have more technical fundamental analysis research reports there too. So let's jump straight into it. If you guys have not already signed up, you can do so by registering on our platform through the main sort of page. I'm going to kind of go one step back here today, and I'm going to take you directly to my TradingView portal. This is pretty much the portal that I'm using, and I then obviously extract information from here daily and post this onto the website for you guys. Now you'll see on the PrimeXBT platform, we actually have something similar. So if you go to the section where it says more and you click on analysis, it will pop up the TradingView charts for you too. But I thought, let me just change it up a bit today. I'm going to take you through a couple of the charts that I've been looking at. I want to show you what my sort of thought process is. And I want to show you how you can potentially execute orders on the crypto futures platform. So today's New York trading session, we're going to be focusing on mainly Bitcoin, and I'm quite excited to jump into the technicals a little bit and show you guys what my thought process is. So let's dive right into it. So this should show you a better view. So currently we've got price sitting at around $60,000. Now we kind of made our way up into the 65,000 region, and I want to show you a couple of areas that I was interested in for potential shorts. Now, I know everyone is kind of of the opinion that it's up October, but however, we've got some tension happening in the Middle East, and that's definitely kind of causing a bit of a reaction in the markets, and we're kind of seeing this across the board. So I thought, let's just take us through some price action, how you can potentially draw up these on your own charts, and obviously then potentially show you some opportunities in terms of how you can execute on the platform. So let me just kind of clear what I've got already marked up here. So if you look here, Bitcoin has pretty much been trading in this range of between 70,000 and say the low of around 50,000 for pretty much the most part of since July. So almost 2-3 months now we've been kind of stuck in this range. And I know I've taken you guys through this already before, but these were kind of the areas that I was interested in. Now, the reason why is if you have a look here, right? So you can see how price pretty much broke this low down here. So I'm just going to use my bar replay function, right? So if you have a look here, we have this sort of area of interest marked up here. And you can see that pretty much since then, we've had price kind of reject the support area here. So if you have a look here, we had this marked out down here, and you can pretty much see we've been stuck between 70 and say $50,000. Now you can see we've made a new low, right? And naturally we are expecting price to kind of chop back up into some sort of discount area where price maybe could reject and kind of roll over again. Or does price kind of break through these areas, and do we see this sort of new push into all-time highs, which everyone is kind of expecting. However, I think it's quite key to note that price is going to range for a good period of time, especially whilst we sit in this reaccumulation phase post-halving. So it's quite interesting to see this visually, how this would play out. And you can kind of see how, as the weeks have gone by, we've kind of been just ranging in this area. Nothing's really happened, and that's kind of given us any significance that we're going to push higher and move higher out of this area. So I thought it would be quite interesting to kind of deep dive into this area, why it is of interest to me, and potentially how you could potentially look for either shorts or longs, depending on how you want to see this sort of area of interest, right? So if you have a look here, I've got this kind of marked out as my low. And if you have a look at this area over here, you can kind of see how we pretty much have been trading within this range around 65,000. We came into here once, we moved out of it, we kind of failed to make a new low over here, which kind of suggests that maybe this support area here indeed was actually quite strong. We then pushed out of it pretty much back into these highs, where we've now kind of grabbed this high. So if you have a look here at around $65,000, so you can kind of see how price is like chopping and changing between these key psychological levels too. And it's not really like moving quite aggressively through either side, but rather just stuck in this range. So if you have a look here now, I'm just going to hide this quickly so you can see this better. You can pretty much see how all we've really done is we've come down, we've rejected the support area once, okay? We've then kind of pushed back into the high of around $65,000, got trapped in here again, didn't really make any significant progress in terms of breaking through this high. So if I mark out this, you kind of would have wanted to see something like that before then a like sort of retest and then continuing higher. So that's quite interesting for me in terms of why we kind of rejected out of this area. So I was looking for price to pretty much kind of maybe take out these lows again before going higher. However, we kind of then just moved back down into the support region, trapped it again, and now we've kind of pushed back up into the high. So we manufacturing liquidity on both sides every single time we are doing these moves out of these support areas. And if you have a look now on the daily, we've pretty much come and cleared this high at around 65,000. We've then rejected this area, and you can see here by the looks of this chart, we've pretty much had something like this. And this is quite a key sort of price action technique I like to use, because it kind of looks like a head and shoulders formation, if you want to call it that. But pretty much it's showing me a change in structure. It's showing me a change in character. So if you have a look here, this sort of area of interest is actually still relevant until price breaks above this invalidation zone, right? So this over here would be my invalidation zone at around, say, 70,000. And then I would say that this area is going to potentially then either change from, say, resistance into, say, support, and then we can look for potential longs going higher. But for the most time, for the time being, we still seem to be trapped quite in this sort of range between 64,000 and the high of 70,000. And you can see here how we've pretty much just gone and cleared this high. We've rejected it. We got quite close to that 70% level on the RSI indicator. That would have been quite a nice signal to kind of tie into, to potentially see, okay, is price being overbought into this area, or what exactly is this area going to be in terms of relevance? So I would actually be quite interested to see how this area of interest holds, and especially considering you can see we've had this break in structure over here, right? So if I was to look for shorts now, my idea would be to pretty much go in from, say, this sort of market shift entry over here. I would then want to have my stop, say, just above the high, and then I would want to see if I could target maybe these lows going lower, right? Now, the same argument can kind of be said that we are trapped on both the long and short side, right? So you can look at it from two angles. So if you wanted to look at it from a short angle, it would be something like this. However, you can also say, or there could also be the argument that no, we indeed have actually just moved higher, broken this structure. So if anything, we are going to potentially look for some sort of pullback, right, into this region over here. And then there should be some sort of area of interest over here that we can then potentially look for longs back out of this area. So that's why my sort of thought process on Bitcoin right now is that it's quite trapped from either side. It's showing both short signals and it's also showing long signals. I'll deep dive now why I think there is potentially longs to this theory as well. And if you have a look here, you can kind of see that the support area has been holding quite nicely. We've now actually moved up, broken this high here. So my next idea would be that if, say, this was my market shift over here, I would want to maybe see price hold in this area of interest here, right? And the reason I'm saying that is because if you have a look at where structure shifted internally, we had this daily EMA break above here, which then kind of retested it slightly and we pushed higher. Now, if this was to indeed hold, we can also see that there's quite a nice trend line that's, okay, it's been broken from this angle if you have a look now. However, I wouldn't really pay too much attention to this because it is not really of relevance in terms of have we actually broken up higher or have we broken lower? These are all just internal ranges, right? So if we were to look at, say, this descending trend line over here, you could make the argument that no, indeed, we actually have broken above here and now price seems to be kind of trending back down into this range. It kind of lines up with the 50% sort of Fibonacci level to then push higher too. So do you get my point of basically we are looking at two sort of potential scenarios here and both are valid in my opinion. So if you were to say look for a long example, right, you could potentially look at, say, taking the discount of, say, 50% over here, and then you could have your stops running below these lows at, say, 52,000. And if you were of the opinion that we were going to push higher and, say, attack these highs at around $73,000, then your risk to reward would actually kind of tie up quite nicely, right? So there's two ways in which you could play this. The one way is you could play the intraday short, which would basically kind of take you back down to this bigger area of interest, right? Where we could then potentially look for long. So in the current sort of time in which we are trading right now, both could come at any given point in time, right? So if you have a look here, the same argument could be said that we could push up into this sort of range again and then roll over, say somewhere down here. And then we could potentially look for some sort of confirmation, right? Now, I don't necessarily always just try and take risk entry straight out of an area of interest. I would rather look for some sort of confirmation. And what I mean by confirmation, right? So if you have a look now on the daily time frame, this actually for me would be a confirmation entry. So basically it's confirming that the area of interest that I'm trading out of, whether that be a trend line, whether that be a support or resistance level, I'm always looking for further confirmation rather than just taking the risk entry straight off the bat, right? So if you have a look here, basically what I'm meaning by that is that you have price doing something like this, okay? Now that would be my confirmation area, confirmation entry model. So basically what that is telling me is that in some sort of way, this is actually looking like a head and shoulders pattern, right? Which maybe some of you guys are familiar with. So for me, I'm not actually seeing any confirmation from the daily side of things yet in terms of buying, because we actually haven't reached this point of interest yet. We haven't reached the support area where I think potentially we could look for longs. So I would want to see when price came back down into this area here, I would want to see something similar on the opposite end, right? So it's basically a very simple entry model. However, it can really help you in terms of scaling down your sort of risk to reward. It can help you with your short positions, your long positions. It can increase your risk to reward as well, right? So if you have a look here, for example, let's say I was to take a short position straight out of this area here, which would have been something like this, okay? and I'm just using my position size tool to show you as an example, right? My stop loss would have been something around this. So in order for me to even try and get a risk reward of say 2 to 1 in this scenario, I would basically have to trade back down to the lows of around 49,000. Now, it's not necessary that a given that price is going to get that low before we push higher again. So if I wanted to intraday scalp, I would basically then look for a position where I was doing something like this, okay, for tutorial purposes, and my stop would be something like that. And you can already see just by the way in which I've now changed my entry model. So instead of looking for a risk sort of entry, I'm now looking for a double confirmation entry out of that area. You can now see I've already increased my risk to reward by say 2 or 3 times, right? And that's pretty much how I like to trade. I like to look for price action to move into an area, show me some sort of confirmation, and then I try and execute based on that, right? Rather than just taking the initial entry tap, because price might just completely disregard that area of interest, and then you get stopped out for pretty much no reason. However, if I'm looking at say a double confirmation area or some sort of confirmation entry model, it's giving me a bit more sort of clarity as to, okay, this area is actually holding and I might actually be able to get something out of this, right? So if you had to look here, for example, let's say I wanted to take a short entry over here. Now, obviously price is way below this, so it would have to be a limit order, right? It wouldn't be a market execute because we've actually already broken through here. So what I would be anticipating is that price would kind of push back into here. It would then roll over back down into this area of interest, which is kind of where my bias is right now, especially in terms of where we are sitting in terms of the cycles. I would like to see some sort of bullish momentum kind of kicking in again. I would like price to kind of go into new highs, etc. But in order for that to happen, I might then have to wait a bit in terms of me capitalizing on any long positions, right? So let's say price does go back up into our favor, we get a short entry. All I'm doing is I'm just capitalizing on both sides of the markets. And that's really the cool key feature here that I'm trying to show you, is that with PrimeXBT, you can trade both sides of the market at any given point in time. So you don't necessarily need to be holding just one direction in terms of a position. You can be intraday scalping. You might already be, say, in a long position on Bitcoin from, say, $40,000 or whatever it may be. And now you just kind of want to protect yourself against any like adverse momentum against you, whether it be in your favor or whether it will be against you. So I would then want to see price kind of tap back into the $63,000 region. I'd have my stops at around 67,000. I would then want to see if price would respect that and roll back into this long position, which is where I kind of want to look for some sort of buys. And then I would look for something like this, which pretty much would look something identical to what we have here, but I would want to see it on the opposite end, right? So if I had to flip over my charts, it would look something like that, okay? So that's just a little trick that you can use. So how would I actually now execute on this? Or how would I actually capitalize on potentially trading this intraday short into my long? So what I would do is I would head over back onto my platform. I would go onto my account section. If you don't already have funding sitting in your account, you can do so easily by making a deposit. We have various options. For example, you can either deposit via crypto, it can be via fiat, whatever suits you. Then if you have a look, the funding will kind of come into your accounts, and then in order for you to make sort of trading execution, etc., you'll then need to move the funding out of this account and into the desired account you want to trade from, right? So if you look today, I want to show you how you can potentially enter into a position on Bitcoin, which is on the crypto futures platform in this scenario. Then I would need to move funding to that platform, right? So how would I do it? Pretty simple. I want to move, say, USD Tether. I click transfer. Let's say I want to move $1,000. I would then select the wallet that I want the funding to go into. So if you have a look here, you've got two options, mainly CFD trading and crypto futures. So I would then want to go and move this funding over into my crypto futures platform. Then once the funding arrives, you'll get a notification. you can click over here where it says crypto futures, okay, and now it pops up the terminal and you can pretty much trade within this future space now, right? So for example, if you have a look here, this is Solana. So I'm actually wanting to set some limits on Bitcoin. So what I would need to do is I would need to go and type in Bitcoin, right? So it's quite simple, BTC USD Tether. You got to find the ticker name. It will then come up. I can then click on it and you can see obviously that the trading chart in here looks exactly the same as to what I was showing you on my TradingView terminal, right? So if I go back into the platform and let's say I want to enter some limits on here and I wanted to have my stop loss say at around 67,000. Now it's quite simple. Remember, I don't want to necessarily execute right now because it's going to affect my risk to reward. I would like price to come back into this area over here. Okay, I would like my stop above there, and then I want to look for some potential shorts. So something where you get price coming in like that and then rolling over and then looking for some sort of daily confirmation before kind of pushing back higher, right? And the way in which I would do that is because it's now not a market order, I would need to choose the limit function. So I can go here and I can go choose how much I want to enter. So let's say, for example, I would like to enter 0.1. I would then go and change my margin type. So let's say I want to change it from cross to isolated or isolated to cross. It's quite easy. You just toggle the function. Let's say I want to bring this down to around 5x or 10x. I can then just click set. It will then automatically change it for me based on what I've chosen. And now let's say, for example, I want to plug in my entry, right? So I was looking for shorts at say around 62,600 as marked out here. Then I simply just go over here. I type in 62,600, okay? And then I will place my sell order because I don't want to do a buy in the scenario. So I'll click my sell order, right? So that will pretty much then pop up this next widget, which will kind of confirm, do you actually want to do this? I then click yes, place sell order, right? And now you can see that my sell limit is sitting here, okay? And that's pretty much bang on with that area that I wanted to look at, okay? Now, remember, this is not an active position running, so it's not going to sit in your positions section. It's going to sit in the order section. So next to where it says positions, it will have the function which says orders. You can then see your entry over here, for example. And if you want to modify, maybe let's say, for example, I actually changed my mind and I don't want to enter here anymore. Let's say I want to enter a little bit higher. I can just simply modify that, right? Now, that's a really cool function to show you how you can do that on the crypto futures platform. And then pretty much once that position gets executed, you'll get a notification, right? And I've shown this in a couple of tutorials that I've already done online. In order for you then to go and modify your sort of protection order section, when that order gets executed, you will then need to go back onto the section. So for example, let's say I'm going to just cancel this order now. Let's say, for example, I get now executed at 0.1. and it will now show in your positions section. You will then need to go over there and change your stop loss and your take profit manually, right? So in this scenario, let's say I wanted to take profit at around $50,000. I would simply click that in, and let's say I wanted to only get stopped out at say 67,000. I then click set. You can then go and see now all of a sudden you've got your stop loss as well as your take profit, and it will kind of indicate to you at the same time what the value of the position is going to be. So pretty much if price actually moves in your favor to your desired take profit level, you'll make X amount of dollars, right? And then how the take profit function works is that when price is there, you'll automatically get close out of the position, okay? So that's how you would do that scenario in terms of if you got executed on say the limit. Obviously this was a market execute right now, so I'm just going to close this because I wanted the limit section. So that's pretty much how you would do it on the platform. It's really easy to use. It's super user friendly in my opinion. And then again, we obviously also have some really great rewards, some great functions within the sort of contests as well as our reward section. So if you have a look over here, we've got this nice little purple function or purple icon. It's a little gift box, and pretty much this kind of incentivizes you. So every time you are making trades or trading on the platform, we give you dollar value sort of rewards. So for example, if you have a look here, I've already traded up to $100,000 worth of volume. I can simply go click claim. Now it claims this bonus for me and adds it to my account balance. So it's pretty cool function to have, in my opinion. And if you obviously are interested in any of the contests that we have running, where you can get certain rewards up to $1 value in, say, trading a volume or whatever it may be, you can then go over here to where it says contests, and you can click on join view if you want to be a part of the, say, the CFDs trading contest or the crypto futures contest. You can do so. So that's pretty much in summary what I wanted to show you today, especially throughout New York's trading session. I'm going to be keeping my eyes out on this news we have tomorrow from the NFP point of view side of things. That's coming out on Friday. Sorry, excuse me, not tomorrow. So keep your eyes out on that. Let's see what the sort of results look like. I'm quite eager to see if there is a potential miss. If there is a potential miss, I'm expecting a lot of volatility to come into the market, especially considering that the Fed has indicated that they're going to try and support the labor market going forward. So that's definitely something to keep your eyes out on. And yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you today. So thank you for joining into this week's live streaming session. Feel free to add any comments or questions that you might need me to help with, and I can get back to you as soon as possible. But for today's session, that kind of wraps it all up. So thanks for joining in, and I'll see you at next week's session.